So yeah, welcome everybody. With a bit of delay, sorry for that. Yeah, we had certain technical issues. Seems to be something wrong with the invitation link. Nevertheless, at least like to the ones who made it, yeah, a warm welcome from our side, and yeah, to the today's webcast. The second was in this week regarding secure development from our side. This is focusing on the topic of securing application development, specifically in the age of AI. From that, so how's the agenda for today? What we want to present and highlight within this webcast. So first, we give a short introduction. So what's in general the impact of Gen AI on software development? So what is somehow the status quo in the market and how things have been evolved so far? Then we moving on to specifically transforming the software development itself with use of generative AI tools. So how does that impact the process of the development of software application within organizations? Then we specifically try to highlight and addressing expanding threats with our Deloitte's own cybersecurity AI and Gen AI framework. So really showcasing what kind of threats are posing with that sense and how you could somehow address that in a holistic approach with a dedicated framework we would and could provide to you as well. With the fourth point, then we would hand over to Matthias from Snyk, who is then highlighting more hands-on how somehow exploiting AI-generated code and how to protect against certain exploits from that scenario with different examples in that sense to get a more detailed view how these things could somehow pose a risk and how a solution like Snyk can also support technically to address these risks and mitigate this risk as well. And in the end, a short outlook regarding Gen AI. Also within the market and main takeaways also from this sessions for you to consider and hopefully get some progress out of this webcast. Quick overview and introduction of the facilitators. Myself, I'm Matthias Will, director within the cyber team from Deloitte. Next to me, supported by Amela. She's a senior consultant also in the cyber strategy team at Deloitte. She's, for example, highlighting later on the secure framework from AI. And then we have Matthias Konrad. So today we have like two Matthias in this round again, who is the principal solution engineer from Snyk and presenting from that side more like also the technological and solution related parts of this webcast. So diving in, starting with in general, the impact of Gen AI in software development. I mean, Gen AI, of course, is something I don't tell anything new, which is a lot of buzz around that. A lot of things are happening in multiple areas within the companies, but also for companies like us as service providers. Nevertheless, quickly, short introduction, like from definition side, what does Gen AI mean? So Gen AI is a type of AI model trained on really extensive big data, which is enabling to understand and combine this data, and by that, enabling to generate and create a certain output based on certain instructions, also called prompts. And this could be like trained on like certain text, images, code, audio, video, whatever. And by that, they can then also generate multiple forms of output, as said, like certain generated videos based on a descriptive prompt, or as often used, maybe certain research based on big data to generate maybe certain presentation or whatever. Like there are multiple areas of usage, how you can use Gen AI in your daily work, but also in your business work. But nevertheless, next to these topics, there are also certain challenges always needs to be considered with the use of Gen AI. So on the one side, it's not like Gen AI is knowing everything. So it's not very, but at least it's limited to its scope. So it can't go beyond the data it was trained on. So it's highly reliable on the data sources it was trained on, and which are underlying to process in that sense. Second part, which is often maybe a little bit yeah, forgotten sometimes in the use of, at least like in the daily use of Gen AI is hallucinations. So really the risk of generating incorrect outputs, because it seems if you ask a certain question or prompt to AI, the output always seems pretty confident as a fact, but that's not always the truth. It's just something generated out of the data, and yeah, if the data underlying maybe is not correct or not complete, so there's the risk of generating that that the output is somehow incorrect or hallucinated. Bias also a topic which is yeah, strongly combined to Gen AI, which means that the output which is produced by the LLMs, by the large language models, can of course be biased because they are only reflecting certain data, which also could be biased. So if you put in very strong opinion-based, only in one direction data to train a model, of course, the outcome always would be biased in that sense as well. Incomplete outputs and copyright issues are also topics which are seen as challenges in the use of Gen AI, saying, of course, based on the data underlying, maybe certain output is incomplete, insufficient, also depending on how accurate and how complete certain data underlying is. And copyright issues is also topic which is raising more and more attention regarding the use of the data and yeah, how they are protected. Are there certain copyrights under this one, certain intellectual property, who's the owner of certain things, which then will be reproduced by Gen AI based on the data which was trained on. So this as a kickstart, so somehow what Gen AI means, also what kind of challenges are combined to Gen AI, and this is how we want to combine that now to the important and to us very interesting topic of the software development. In general, and that have lots of studies shown, there's a global growth in spending in general on generative AI. So companies are really accelerating the development of dedicated models, of AI-enabled applications. Of course, with the focus, they want to boost their productivities, lower their efforts and costs, and of course, drive innovations with the help of Gen AI. I brought here three yeah, very interesting statistics, two from Gartner, and one is based on a study from ourselves, from Deloitte. So maybe the upper one, which shows that yeah, currently more than 80% of enterprises will have used Gen AI APIs or at least deployed generative AI-enabled applications by 2026. So it's covering more or less like more and more every sector, every industry, and it's not only specific for specific yeah, industry sector or companies in that sense. It's really affecting more or less everybody from business side, because there are so many yeah, areas you can use certain AI in that sense. So really more than 80% till 2026, within the next 2 years. The second one is that global enterprise is spending on Gen AI. They will increase, will grow by 30% by this year, like in 2024. And the market for chips, for example, specialized and optimized for AI and Gen AI technology for the whole calculation, they will reach over 50 billion from up to nothing, more or less 2 years ago. So this also shows there is heavily spending and investing in Gen AI, also in the market, like from solution side, from provider side, but also within the global enterprises to spend money, invest in the money early to really early on to participate in the potential of Gen AI. And the third one also from Gartner, which is also not to underestimate, is like through 2027, Gen AI will spawn new roles in software engineering and operations, which requires 80% of the engineering workforce to upskill. So we have a totally new way of working. Somehow you need different skill sets. Also the way of how you somehow produce work, produce certain deliverables or certain applications is changing also rapidly with Gen AI. And by that, it's important that really like the whole workforce, of course, in that sense for software development, like the software developer engineers and the developers, but also within the organization itself to upskill, to gain knowledge about what is AI, how AI is working, how the models behind that are working, how things are combined, and what poses that. We come to that specifically later on when we talk about certain risks and threats and how to address that in a holistic framework. So, what we show here is a little bit like old world, new world. So it's rapidly changing also how currently software development and programming is done. And if I remember myself when I studied quite some years ago with programming and writing certain coding and reports. The way how we did that back then was, and even there it was also not Stack Overflow or something like that. It was more like book based, but nevertheless, like so far, legacy software development is mainly manual processes, approaches, means for seeking for certain solutions, for problem solving. It's like trial and error, like how to gain maybe certain obstacles within the coding for troubleshooting. Lots of that was manually or had to be kickstarted manually. And we showed here like Stack Overflow as like one big community, or classical like Google or Bing or whatever, to gain insights, gain certain expert view or some knowledge to get more traction in the legacy software development. On the other side, of course, often it was binded to manual coding and testing, maybe partly supported by automated testing. We had like the traditional IDE usage for the development itself, and as I said, like main sources to gain knowledge, but also to exchange have been like classical manuals, communities, or specific forums. With AI and Gen AI, this rapidly changed specifically in that environment. So we have Gen AI assisted software development, which means we have more or less an AI augmented development. So of course the task still needs to be done, but they won't be done like they have been done in the past, like lots of manual work. So you have support and AI assistance within the whole code generation itself for certain blocks, maybe for certain complete reports, things like that, certain checks in that. So lots of things you can now auto-generate and reuse within your own coding. Also for code reviews, for debugging, also for quality assurance. So there are a lot of approaches you can use with AI augmented development. On the other side, this is something which is often a pain for developers. It's regarding documentation and commentation, so that also the coding is understandable for third parties, for people taking over these things, and also internally. This is also something which now can superb be supported by AI or Gen AI, giving that in supportive and focus really on the main field of development. And you have also certain topics like traditional autocomplete integration into IDE. So already somehow giving you options regarding how to code within the live environment of the development. We have AI-driven and automated testing, things like that. Also later on, Matthias will focus on a bit more in his part for the Snyk platform. And also this ensures and enables possibilities like low code and no code developments. Also more and more broader solutions, also enterprise solutions are focusing on like SAP, for example. So from that, there are also some interesting facts based on a study also by Stack Overflow, which also underlying that, so that the use is more and more changing. So 81% of developers really see a big benefit in increased productivity. So the way faster how they can resolve certain problems and get their work done. 82% of the developers are already using it in writing a code because it's super comfortable to use to. Within the next year, most of these developers agree also that AI is used either to document code, testing code, writing code. So the usage is already heavily increased in comparison like to the last years due to the possibilities of Gen AI. And at least like 2/3 of developers already using AI to search for specific answers based on question or problems on issues they are facing during their development phase. binding that now to the general software development lifecycle, because software development is not only coding. It's just a lifecycle really from the whole requirements gathering and analysis to the application of software design and product design, to the application development, testing phase, and then afterwards, of course, the deployment, hypercare operation, so take over of that sense into the organization. And there are multiple areas where Gen AI, in that sense and in that life cycle, can and will support in the future and impact also the software development life cycle. So, for example, in application planning, requirements gathering, it could be AI-assisted or chatbot-assisted interviews and workshops where notes will be transcribed live and summarized automatically. On the other side, if you have specific requirements you need to follow, also from legal perspective or compliance perspective, you don't have to do that manually. There are also chances with AI and Gen AI to summarize this work and get an extract of the main topics which are then relevant for your applications in that sense. In the product design, this could be then automatically created product designs, mock-ups, maybe architecture designs to help you. Of course, in the development itself is then the end-to-end. Product development will be faster due to AI support or AI-driven solutions in that sense. Code quality is by that also increased. You have automated testing in the testing phase, testing scripts, which can be reused or automatically built also with Gen AI. And of course, in the hypercare transition, it's easier planning, it's issue resolving, which could also be generated, supported by Gen AI. So the whole response part somehow can be driven based on knowledge bases provided by AI assistants. And also hypercare could be by that shortened in that sense. So the next block coming from here now, highlighting why AI is increasing and impacting also software development. So in this case here, we want to highlight a little bit how software development is transforming with the specific use of Gen AI tools. We have here an interesting quote telling those excelling in the use of new technologies and software development leverage these tools and possibilities to drive innovation and success. So Gen AI could and will be a big driver for innovation, for success, and also somehow to gain pace within your organization for specific topics. We clustered that a little bit here regarding different areas where it makes sense and where it has an impact. You can embrace certain automation, of course, by the use of Gen AI in the software development, by repetitive coding tasks and stuff like that. You can implement continuous learning with the help of AI, helping you really to give certain feedback and adapt information which are provided then, for example, directly in the IDE. You have collaborative tools allowing you to easily and better interactive work and collaborate together, streamlining communication and workflows also based on Gen AI. We have a rapid integration, which ensures faster and quick developments of prototypes, so even earlier results to highlight, to show, also discuss with the business with the help of AI, and of course predictive analytics based on the data, helping you to foresee maybe dedicated risks in the project earlier. So there are multiple areas in the software development which are impacted and somehow could be leveraged from this one. We highlighted here some of the common known. Of course, these are not all of the ones, and they are growing heavily by startups or also by the big ones. But in general, to highlight what we have on the one side, we have the tools supporting the developers, the software engineers, like GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, helping you really like for coding, debugging, generation of code, review, explanation for learning, and so on and so forth. And these are already either directly usable within the web, you can access them or incorporate them via API, or already they are incorporated already in your IDE environment, for example, like Visual Studio Code in that sense. On the other side, you have also possibilities like the platform from Snyk, which helping you maybe not only in the coding itself, but to increase certain quality, to increase and embed certain security testing automatically. You have certain auto-fixing, vulnerability detection in the sense when you're really developing, not afterwards. It's like really supporting you as early as possible and then guide you in that sense. And also with the direct IDE integration or act as a integrated security gate within the CI/CD pipeline. So, of course, we have lots of challenges residing with GenAI, which is like efficiency increase, of course, better code quality, documentation could be automated, or certain acceleration of innovations. But nevertheless, there are also quite some challenges which needs to be focused on also as early as possible, which I mentioned also in the start, which are data privacy and security, which is one of the most critical topics and challenges you have to face with the use of GenAI, based on the fact that you are working with big data and information underneath that. Bias and fairness, as I mentioned before, is a very important topic, like how to ensure that the models are giving a correct and independent and fair output, so to say. You have sometimes ethical concerns, specifically if you have AI-driven applications which are supporting you in decision making, for example. And one topic which also not to be underestimated is the complexity of integration. So how to integrate certain tools, certain solutions, also certain progresses within your process of software development, but also within your organization and technology itself. And by saying that, mentioning these challenges and risks, next slide. Yeah. Handing over to my colleague Amila, who highlighting and telling you a little bit more about how we could address really like these expanding threats with our specific Deloitte cybersecurity AI and GenAI framework.
Thank you, Matthias. Happy to be here. So as mentioned, we're going to take a look into what are the cybersecurity threats of AI. Beyond the hype, AI is actually a software, so it's an information systems, and we need to be aware of the cybersecurity threats that come with it. At Deloitte, we have done an extensive research when it comes to what can go wrong for AI. We've looked into the standards that are from the ISO, the OWASP threats from LLM, and also some of the NIST publications, and we came up with our top threats, which is what you see here, and also there are 10 other threats that we have that look into how to cyber secure, or let's say what can go wrong with AI when it comes to cybersecurity. So obviously, very famous input injection. I think everybody's aware of how you can get malicious input to override controls and alter the behavior of LLM models, and focusing especially on the threats that relate to the poisoning of data, different information breaches when it comes to especially looking into the GDPR violations, and the difference of data that you can have in this models. Quite new is everything that happens inside of the AI, which is model poisoning and model stealing. There are threats when it comes to having unauthorized access and exploitation of these AI models. There can be a lot of, let's say, resource-intense operations, which will generate model denial of service type of threats. And then very much important, the supply chain vulnerabilities. And as Matthias mentioned earlier, there is a very complex way of building these AI models. And as much as we look into the third-party aspect of it, especially for AI, there are new and special supply chain vulnerabilities when it comes to how the AI models are put together. Obviously, very important, AI cannot differentiate between data and specific input. And this is where we have the excessive agency abuse as a very important threat. We should not let AI to take more responsibilities than we have given it to it. And then obviously adversarial examples, a very new, let's say, research topic when it comes to how the adversarial learning can create malicious inputs and deceive the AI models. For example, cause the misclassification. And an example for these can be a spam detection filter, which cannot work anymore because this inputs are so tricky that can make the model to not identify something as spam. So this is in a nutshell that the summary of threats that we have come up with, the top threats. And then for that, we have developed what we call the cybersecurity framework, which is, right here. So the way we thought about this is that obviously AI is a software, is an information system, and then we looked into the lifecycle side of AI and also taking into consideration the fact that there needs to be an infrastructure, which is where these models are going to get deployed or get developed and get used. We have four different domains: the data, the model, and the application, which is what the AI lifecycle is all about, and then obviously the infrastructure part of it. After the domains, there is the cybersecurity, we call them capabilities, which is, in a nutshell, a group of the controls that need to be put in place to cyber secure all of these four domains. I will go briefly into these four domains, starting with the data. And again, bringing the AI lifecycle, how it works together is that you need to be aware that there is data coming into the model. There is some, let's say, magic black box algorithmic development and analysis of this data. And then the last part is the application side, which is where how users are interacting with these models. When it comes to data, what we need to have in mind is the controls that relate to the integrity and quality. We need to make sure that the data is actually being put in the right, let's say, it's clustered in the right way, it's cleaned up. Obviously, data lineage and provenance is very important because we want to know where this data is coming from, if the resources are right or not, and kind of think about all the poisoning aspect of what can come into the model. And then obviously the data privacy, it's everything related to GDPR, kind of thinking of everything that comes with the confidentiality of data that needs to be encrypted. But obviously now with this new technology, we have privacy enhancing technologies, which is specific encryption and algorithmic usage that we can do analysis to the model to protect the data and the way this is analyzed throughout the AI lifecycle. Moving on to the model, then we need to make sure that we teach the model about the adversarial examples that are threats that can maliciously change the behavior of the model. We need to make sure that the model has the right access control, so the developers that are supposed to build these models are actually making those changes, and the model is not let's say, internally getting access to a part of the system that it's not supposed to. We want the model to actually behave in the right way, and this is why the controls around the monitoring of they're very important. We would constantly want to pen test and cyber secure the model. This is where we have the model security testing, and obviously security model development is looking into the SDLC or MLSecOps aspect of how to write development code in a secure way for AI. And application is what considers all the user interaction with this model. So we need to have security controls for the application architecture. Obviously, we need to do monitoring and logging to see what the model is outputting and whether that is as an outlier, which will by default flag an incident. We want to make sure that the users are not abusing their controls and kind of like escalating the privileges of the AI models. And then also they don't, let's say, go beyond the access that they're supposed to have to begin with on the access control part. The last one is the infrastructure, and think of it as more of a traditional cybersecurity, depending on where these models are developed, deployed. Be it a cloud infrastructure or network security, you'll have certain cyber controls in place. And obviously, as I said earlier, AI is an information system, so you need to have traditional cybersecurity in place to begin with. And this is what this part of the framework is about too. And obviously, the overarching security capabilities, AI is not something out of the blue, but it should be part of the GRC processes inside of the company, and have in mind on the secure supply chain and asset management for the lifecycle security part of it. And I'm going to give it back to Matthias, or the other Matthias now.
To me. Thanks, Amila. And I think it's really highlighting that it's important to have like these overall view approach within the company when thinking about building up AI use cases and also specific applications. So maybe summarizing from that sense within one slide. So it's important really to laying the foundation for secure development for applications, specifically in the age of AI, which means like here, like selected main aspects to focus about. It's like really about access control and authentication of certain applications and also models. It's a certain way on how to protect the underlying data, like from data security, but also data privacy perspective. It's about ensure a certain model robustness and resilience, so of the application and the models itself during the development. Ensuring then within the software development lifecycle itself, end to end, that certain controls based on these capabilities are implemented, and of course, like the factor people who are doing that and working with that. So it's also like regarding the workforce upskill, which is underlined, of course, by ethical AI, trustworthiness, compliance, and regulatory adherence, which is important. By that, now handing over to Matthias, who is diving a bit more into practical scene on how to exploit Gen AI generated code, and of course, how you can protect against these things, but also other threats which were mentioning before.
Yes, thank you. I will take over my screen share here. Right. Okay, so I will be diving into AI hallucinations and output quality, and in general, the context is now when we are developing custom software and we use Copilot or generative AI to generate code. I want to show that it's not always secure and how we can protect against this. So first of all, here's a nice article or headline that I found in the Wired magazine in July this year. It has this nice headline: ChatGPT does everything badly and confidently, and I too want to be that ridiculously short of myself. Just referring to AI hallucinations here. Or another quote here from Mark Benioff, who is the CEO of Salesforce, just recently from October. He said, when you look at how Copilot has been delivered to customers, it's disappointing. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't deliver any level of accuracy, and so on and so on. So you can see here, just because it's called intelligent, it doesn't mean that it's always true or it's always secure of what's coming out of those Gen AI models. Now, in my example, I will be showing something very hands-on. So let's assume I'm a software developer. I'm writing an application. In my case, I take a sample application. It's called Java Coffee Shop. It's an application written in Java and Spring Boot. And let's assume this application is halfway developed, but there are some features missing. And I'm not the developer who has to develop the missing pieces here. So in my case, I have my code sitting up on GitHub in a repository there. I have a certain feature branch that I'm developing in. It's called product search because my features that I'm going to implement are now related to a full text search, being able to search for the coffee or beer in my shop system through text. And so first of all, the missing features are, I want this whole list that you see here make searchable. So whenever I enter a keyword, it should give me the return of the matching items. And then another feature would be that in the user profile section where I can log in as a user, there's an option to upload an avatar picture. And this avatar picture isn't yet, the upload function isn't yet implemented, and this is what I need to do. So I would then go ahead and I open up my IDE. This could be like IntelliJ or VS Code, for example, very popular IDEs for developers. And let's assume this one here, what you see, this is my code base. And since I'm writing in Java, I follow this certain MVC pattern, model view controller, where now I have this particular search repository service. This is now where I would implement my search function. And you can see here the code is already there in a way, or at least the outline, the skeleton, but some implementations are missing. And this search product feature that function that you see here, this is now where I would start implementing the search. So the way that Copilot works, or these generative AI tools, are that as a developer, I give comments. So I comment in the source code what I want to achieve. And then the Gen AI, for example, Copilot, would pick up that comment, interpret it, and then generate the code for me. That's the whole idea of Copilot, for example. So I have this here as a video. That's what I wanted to show you. So here I would now type in a comment, for example, lower the input of the user. And what comes next, like this line, for example, now is generated by the AI. So then I keep going. I say, okay, create me a database query to query the database, matching the input to the product or the description of the item. And then what's come next here now, this SQL query, is all generated by the Gen AI, by Copilot, right? So this is how it works. Now, it works fine. We get the business goal achieved. I mean, I get a nice working function. It does what it's meant to be. It's going to be able to search the database and give me the output. And however, this SQL query, for example, that we got here from Copilot, it has some vulnerabilities in it. So, for example, this piece of code created an SQL injection generated by Copilot. So it's not always secure. And the problem here, why that is first of all, the model behind it is not always, I mean, it's trained to produce productive business logic software code, but it's not always trained to be secure. And it also learns from open tabs that I have. So if in my existing project, you can see at the top, I have a couple of open tabs. And the Copilot model learns or fine-tunes itself from the open source code that I have in other tabs. So if I have their insecure code or code that is against bad practices, it will pick this up and eventually also use this when it generates the new code for me. So in any case, we have this vulnerability that you can see here, an SQL injection. And if you use Snyk, for example, as a scanner, we have this scan engine, we will detect this. SQL injection detected here by Snyk in this particular line. So if I use a proper scanner, I can make sure that I find these issues immediately right away in the IDE. Now, let me explain to you how SQL injection works and why it matters. So this is now the website where there's a search input field. I can enter, let's say, holiday as a keyword, and I get the holiday Java and holiday nuts as a result because the keyword is in there. Now, this is a proper use of the search. Now, if I'm a malicious user, I can go ahead and enter a malicious SQL query. So basically, I am misusing the search function and entering an SQL query, which I'm not supposed to do usually, but since it's not, the application doesn't sanitize user input, I can nicely end the existing regular search query here. This is what I do with this percentage and then the quote sign, semicolon, and then I do whatever I like with a database query. And this one now is a write query. So I'm basically updating all the products in the database and set the price to 0 for all customers. I say update product set price to 0, and then whatever comes next, it should be ignored. And the database would pick this up, or the application picks this up, sends it to the database and executes it. So for every user now, the price would be 0. So you can imagine in a proper real world e-commerce shop, that would be a severe issue there. Another example here, I can say update the product set, setting the description to this beer sucks, where the ID is 9. So I'm changing the article description of a particular item here to something I like. So this is an example of SQL injections. Another example is a combination of cross-site scripting and SQL injections. So for example, let's say I am able to enter a JavaScript command in my search, and I'm setting here the product name to something with a JavaScript command. So I'm saying here alert and show me the document cookie. Now the problem is, if the user is logged in or any user is logged into the system and somebody has set this weird product name there, it will show the session ID of that particular user. Now this alert is just an example here for my demo, but imagine that instead of just doing the alert on screen, instead, the script would send the session ID to a malicious server or the, let's say, command and control server of the malicious user, then the malicious user can impersonate and take over any user's session, whoever, all the users that click on this particular product and where it's shown in a detail page. So this allows to impersonate users or take over their sessions, very critical as well. Another example here, a path traversal. Path traversal means, let's say here in this example, I want to allow the user to upload their image, and the image, this particular picture then should be placed in a particular folder on the server. So far so good, right? So it should be in one, it's called uploads directory. And a path traversal would mean that as an attacker, I can escape this this folder and store information elsewhere outside of this let's say sandbox. And this is I will show you what I can do with that then. So first of all, this is the code base that I have already in my application. Let's assume one of my colleagues has started the implementation but didn't finish it. So that's why here some of the code snippets is commented out, and I'm now about to finish this piece of code. So you can see here at the top, there's the uploads directory defined in this constant upload directory, and it should be a folder called uploads, simply a uploads folder on the server. And now here's the code that I'm going to finish, and I use again Copilot for this. Now I say something that something like just by the comment, I say get the file and save it in the upload directory. So the file means it's the parameter that comes from the request of the user. It's the multipart file, so it's this binary object like a JPEG, for example. And I just said, okay, get this file and save it in the upload directory, and everything else was already done by my colleague. Now, these 3 lines of code have then been generated by Copilot. And you can see here that with the Snyk plugin installed, we see right away it introduces a path traversal. The issue could be different things. The issue could be that the model just produces, or Copilot produces insecure code, or maybe in some other tab, I have insecure code open in a similar fashion where the model learns from and then displays it here in a similar way. So, and also the prompting is important, right? The prompting, let's say here, I didn't say anything in particular about path traversals, and I will come to this in a second later. But that's why it can happen that the code that is being generated isn't always secure. Now, how the exploit works is, this is now the proper way to use the upload function. I have my application, I go to the profile page, I say I want to upload my image. I pick an image from my local file system, let's say Matthias NYC JPEG, and then it's properly uploaded to the uploads directory according to my code, and it sits in uploads and then Matthias NYC JPEG. So this is how it should work properly. Now, if I'm a malicious user, I do something else. I want to check, hey, this logo at the top, this application logo, where does it sit? It sits in images, Snyk logo PNG. Now, focus here on this folder, right? The folder is not called uploads, the folder is called images. And if I'm a malicious user and want to make some fun, I want to simply replace this logo for every other user as well. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run the exploit of the path traversal. I'm going to upload the image again, and then I use, for example, Burp Suite, which is a tool which acts as a proxy. It allows you to intercept certain web requests before, in the end, sending it to the server. So what I'm doing now is I get this request, but I intercept it in between. And you see, it has my file name that I picked, Matthias NYC JPEG. So far, so good. Now I do a change. Before sending it further to the server, I change it to /images Snyk logo PNG. So basically, first of all, with a // that's the whole point of path traversal. I'm escaping the uploads folder where the image should go into, and I'm overriding the existing logo of the application by providing this exact same file name. And with that, once I do this, we can see here it replaced the logo or the application logo on the server with my file that I just uploaded. So in my case, my picture. So that's the whole point of the path traversal exploit. And of course, you can imagine you can write to any other file. You can overwrite any other file on the system. Of course, given that the application has proper access to these files on the server. So in any case, can I protect against this? If I would do proper prompting, or I would say something like, okay, validate that the path is not vulnerable to a path traversal attack. If I do this and give this to Copilot, then I get a proper secure code or remediation of this. This is one way to do it. So proper prompting with security in mind, which of course means also developers need to be educated around security, let's say OWASP top 10 and so on. The other way is, of course, with Snyk, we have this plugin that not only allows you to detect vulnerabilities, it also allows you to fix. So basically, we also have a generative AI engine, but it's our own model and it's trained for secure coding or secure coding practices, right? So basically, we generate fixed code that has analyzed your existing code base. So this fix on the right, you can see here. I can say apply this fix straight away matches my code base and works in order to fix the issue I have in my very own code. So this is the whole idea of Snyk, finding and also fixing issues. And then regardless of whether the code is developed by an AI or by a human. So to conclude, this is my last slide. How to approach secure AI-assisted development from our point of view. First of all, education and awareness is important. So write up policies and company guidelines. What are developers allowed to do when they use, first of all, which engines or models can they use? Is it a Gemini or Copilot or ChatGPT or any other, maybe a local model that they use? So just provide guidance and also education. It means also that, for example, some engines, they would use the entered or the input data for training the model, right? So eventually it could be sensitive information or PII and so on. So this is important to consider. And then we say, don't trust, always verify. So regardless of whether the code has been developed by a human or an AI, we would treat the AI like an average skilled developer, as we would do with any other human engineer as well. So test and validate everything, for example, with a code review or with a test tool like Snyk. And do it like you would do with any other human developer. Do pair programming, pair ChatGPT, code reviews and so on. This is my final slide. So I'm handing now over to Matthias, and you can take over the screen share then.
Thanks, Matthias, and thanks for the very, very interesting insights. Also, hands-on, how Gen AI can be used also to harm the process of software development, but also on the other side, tools with deep AI fix and Snyk on how to tackle these risks and threats. So shortly, just wrapping things up, quick outlook and main takeaways from the session today. So I mean, AI is not something. Of course, it's currently a bit of a hype, but still it will change how we will work. So it will be still in the future have a big impact within the organizations. And we separated that a little bit. Like there will be still lots of topics regarding ethics, but specifically also regarding regulations. So this is a topic and a concern people always have to have in mind when using AI and also when being assisted by AI also in the development of applications or use cases to focus also on certain regulations which are also growing up more and more and needs to be fulfilled. You have more and more models, algorithms coming up, bigger models using also other models, meta models. So there will be lots of movement also as there well. So by that, even it's more important to have certain boundaries also within your organization, how to handle that, how to approach that, how to also verify what to use, what not to use. And it's important, of course, how to integrate that smoothly and smartly within your industry and also within your business lines. So where you could have a certain impact based on the use cases. Is it like to increase your workforce, being super innovative for a certain topic, being super customer centric? There are so many varieties you can use it. You just need to focus on what's the related use case behind that. And of course, GenAI can be used also to tackle topics regarding sustainability, also current issues you are facing maybe within your organization from an IT, OT, and operative perspective. So the main takeaways and also way forward. I think it's essential. Hopefully, we made that a bit clear that it's essential to have really dedicated security strategy specifically for secure software development, but specifically in that sense also in the age of AI. So to ensure that really protection needs are recognized and the confidence and also the trust within these applications using these models, using these also AI solutions and APIs is growing because the people can rely on the output and on the answers. So we divided it more or less into three main takeaways. First of all, I think it's important to develop and implement an AI and GenAI cybersecurity roadmap and related framework to really have a clear guidance, guardrails on the journey toward your secure implementation, deployment, and usage of AI and GenAI applications. Second of all, more focusing, of course, on the software development lifecycle, which needs to be secured end-to-end, like the whole process cycle itself with dedicated controls within this domain. But specifically in that sense, focusing on, in addition, what are AI-specific or GenAI-specific topics, either in the use of software development to support on the other side, if you are developing applications using AI or embedding AI to tackle these threats also holistically. So this really needs to be done end-to-end within the complete process. And of course, you definitely need to intelligently and integrative way using technologies like Snyk platform, combine solutions in that sense to increase really sustainability from a security perspective, but also to ensure certain compliance and regarding also your internal governance and requirements by using AI for future AI use cases. And by that, of course, we're happy to support you with our services. Also, Matthias and his team from Snyk are happy to support there with their technology to make, of course, the life of the developers easier, but on the other side, smoothly integrating security upfront. So that doesn't become an obstacle. It becomes supportive and then also enabler in that sense. And by saying that, we support that in the advise, implement, and operate part. So really ensuring how to get these frameworks implemented into your organization, how to implement and support technology to be implemented, but also taking over certain tasks for you in the operate part from our side, that we are delivering a certain service in that sense to you. And who's still interested in these topics? Of course, we now have open mic for questions in that sense, but also for the future, there will be upcoming publishing from maybe certain POVs, certain blog posts, but also maybe certain additional webcasts. And what we also provide is a dedicated workshop or lab specifically for the GenAI framework to understand the framework, how this could be incorporated into the organization and what the benefit also for the organization could be there. By saying that, first of all, thank you, Matthias, thank you, Amela, also Tobias, for setting everything up and presenting. And are there certain questions in the audience?